We're both wearing red. That's good.
Do you wear red very often? Because I never wear red. It just happens that I'm wearing red and you're wearing red today. But
yeah, it's I went in and I said, let me wear a nice shirt, and I thought, oh, red looks good. But the truth is, I don't dress up very much. I don't have occasion to dress up, so
yeah.
I have nice clothing, but I hardly wear it.
I know the feeling. You're mentioning about that you pick a good time for yourself. For me, mornings are not so good because I find that to be focused mentally, intellectually is harder for me in the mornings. I don't know why,
right.
but it's and I have to be on to be able to talk with people such as yourself.
That's why I thought 3 or 4 I'll be exhausted, because what I do is I can't help myself. The sun comes up, I wake up, and then I start running around doing stuff. I can't stop myself. I said I'll be wasted by 3 o'clock. But the truth is that if I'm giving a lecture, my energy comes back anyway. So.
Yeah, you round it up, eh? Mm-hmm. Well, luckily you'll be doing most of the talking, so I can just try to prod you into pulling out all the gems that are stored up there in your. So I don't know if you've seen any of my other interviews, but I kind of start with a very sort of general entrance into our conversation, and it starts rather impersonal, but really it's quite a way of seeing where you're coming from by how you answer my first question. And my first question is how would you describe the state of the world today?
The state of the world?
The state of the world.
Oof. Now I could talk for an hour. First of all, I'm an astrologer. Okay. So in Arab astrology, they used to say that empires will last for 12 Jupiter-Saturn cycles, which is basically 240 years. So if you take 1776 to now, we're right there. 2016 was the length of an empire. How it looks to me is it looks like the Empire of America is ending. That's how it looks to me. Generally speaking, there's a banking crisis, hedge fund crisis, economic crisis. Generally speaking, every 7 or 8 years or 10 years. The last crisis that we had was huge. The last crisis that we had, on top of all our debt, on top of all our problems, was enough to get us to the point where we had one last shot to do something. We kicked the can down the road. We also went into debt and printed a huge amount of money to save so that we could kick it down the road a little bit more and not have a complete collapse. And that's great because we're all having fun now. But the next economic crisis, which will be, anywhere in the next few years, generally, historically speaking. And by the way, the public doesn't always know about the crisis that comes every 10 years. They don't. When the S&L banking crisis comes, they see it on the news and they think, oh, that doesn't sound good. But they don't understand that the system nearly cracks when that happens, and that's why the government comes in. The next crisis we have, which 8 years have gone by since the last one, the next one we have, the Fed will not be able to print money. They cannot do it. They've shot their last bullet. So it will then go to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, which will probably print what they call SDRs, special drawing rights, and they'll try to save the economy with yet another, what really is another fiat currency, another currency not backed by gold. That will work if the public trusts it. If the public doesn't trust it, then the system crashes. The most optimistic thing for me about the world today is India. What India has done in the last 3 or 4 months, most of the world isn't even aware of. But the prime minister there, the leader there, called in all of the $15 or $20 banknotes, which is their highest banknote. So basically, what he was doing in India, people don't pay taxes because they pay in cash. They don't go through the system. So so basically, people that own businesses there over 20, 30 years, they would have $300,000, $400,000 in cash in $20 bank. They're not even $20. They're 500 rupee notes, which is, I don't know, 10 or $15. It's their biggest note. So everybody would have their 300,000, the wealthy people would have their $200,000 or $300,000 or $500,000 or $600,000 in these 500 rupee notes. Within 1 week, Modi said everybody has to bring in their 500 rupee notes in the next 7 days. After that bill is worthless. The people could not bring in that money because they hadn't paid taxes on it. So any dirty money was completely obliterated. On top of that, India, in the last 7 years, has found a way to get the people in the villages that make very little, they make some, to get them into the banking system. So they've cleaned out a tremendous amount of money. So they're starting over, and now the money goes into the banks. Then they get taxes, and so they've also put 300 or 400 million people into the system that were not in the system. If 300 million people pay $10 in tax for the year, which is a very small amount, that's a lot of money for the government. Okay, so India looks to me like it, because I've been seeing the collapse of America for the last 20 years. I mean, the political parties are at each other's throats. I mean, everything is a mess here. The system is corrupt. I don't have to tell you. If you can't see it, I can't tell it to you. But the system is broken. So now, there's one other possibility so in those last 20 years, I've said, who's going to be the next empire? No country has a decent currency. They're all based on paper promises. That's number one. China can't do it because they have a real estate bubble that's about 10, 20 times bigger than the one we had, and China has tremendous, corruption. So I haven't seen any country that could take over for when America falls. It looks to me like India now has a chance to do that. And the other possibility is this. The other possibility is that the next crisis comes, the system collapses, and when the system collapses, America pulls together and decides to go back to the Constitution as well as they can and start over. And that would be the possibility of America having another 240 years of empire. That's a possibility. But that's how it looks to me. It looks to me like the system is crashing.
Well, that's awesome. So let's take this now to a higher octave, and bring into it non-duality, and bring into it the concept of polarity and what this means for consciousness. Why this time? Why is this? What is the intensity going underneath all of this? What is feeding all this reflection in that manifests itself in those ways?
So I'm a non-dualist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm not your typical New Ager. I'm not going to say, oh, this is fantastic. It's because of all the spiritual energy that the system is crashing, and then it's going to be heaven on earth. That's not. The way of a non-dualist is to simply say that all there really is consciousness or oneness. That is the emptiness or the awareness that is within us and without us all the time. Like a fish in water, we are sitting in consciousness. And we have the understanding that the material world is a dream. So when it comes to those kinds of things, and I've heard them, I've been in spiritual movements, and I've heard, a great spiritual age is coming. Well, that could be true, could be false, but as a non-dualist, it's irrelevant. As a non-dualist, there's my teacher, Sailor Bob, used to say, look, there's times when the good guys win, and there's times when the bad guys win, right? So it's, whatever happens will be the way the dream goes. It's a dream, and it's like your dream at night. You have a dream. Why did you go to the baseball game in the dream? It was a dream, okay? So whatever happens here is a dream. So I don't so much follow the, I mean, I hope that good things happen and all that, but
So
but
let me ask you a question as a non-dualist. Are any non-dualists born non-dualist? Or is it a process that they go through duality to recognize duality to see what's not duality? Do you know what I mean by that? In other words,
I
even the
do.
people.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're born into the world, and the world looks real. It looks real, and you have suffering, and you have joy, and you have everything else. And then you either, I mean, the thing is, it can happen in any way, shape, or form. Normally, what happens is a person starts to come to the realization that this material universe is going to be just suffering. It's never going to end. So then they start to question, who am I? What am I doing here? And then they go down that road for a long time, and then hopefully they get to the end of it. It's very difficult because there's so many gurus that are promising, I have this wonderful state, you don't. Come and try to get it. And you can't get it because they've got it and you don't. And that's how it's set up. So you go through that for a long time, and if you're lucky, you find someone who's genuine, who says, no, there's no difference in anybody. There is no difference between a Buddha and an ordinary person. There's no essential difference. Of course, Prince may play music better than I play music, but it's still not an essential difference. We both play music. So a Buddha is not any different than an ordinary person. They may have a lot of grace. They may have a lot of, gracious living and things like that. But they also have suffering. No matter what anybody tells you, they also have a reference point, and they also have suffering. But when these people are, these gurus are, getting their disciples and telling them, oh, I live in a perfect state, you can punch holes in that very easily. You press the right buttons on the guru, you find out that they're just like anybody else. Now, the difference the difference within the dream world between someone who knows his true nature or her true nature is simply that they look to see, who am I? They look inside. They say, okay, so who is James? I'm looking for the James that they talk about in the Bhagavad Gita, where they say, who you truly are cannot be cut by the sword, drowned by water, burned by fire. Can't do it. It's eternal. So if I look, I see a physical body. The physical body is not my true nature because it comes and goes. It's, ephemeral. I have thoughts. The thoughts keep changing. They have no independent nature. So that's not who I am. I have feelings, happiness, sadness, depression, bliss. Those come and go. They have no independent nature. But when I'm looking, those are the three things I can find. But there's something else that's there, only it's not a thing. In fact, it's a no thing. I close my eyes, and there is emptiness or nothingness or consciousness. That's our true nature. The consciousness was here, and that consciousness is oneness. It's all that ever is, was, or will be, and it was never created. It simply is. The consciousness is here. A dream body-mind organism gets born into it, finds out its name is James, lives for 75, 85 years, along with the consciousness. That emptiness is there with me all the time. Okay, so a person who, for me, I got non-duality when Sailor Bob, my teacher, came to my house for 5 weeks in 2004. And I look at my life as the period before the age of 53 and the period after. I am completely the same person, and I am completely different because the major suffering is no longer there. I no longer worry about the wars and how could there be a creator that would allow the kind of crap that goes on. Well, the fact is, it's like a movie. It's like a dream. Painful as it may be, it's simply a dream. In the 20th century, over 100 million people were killed in wars. And if you think about that, that alone should stop the creation. If the creation was real, those deaths would be highly significant. You notice 100 million people die, and then there's a period where everybody's having fun, like nothing ever happened. It's because what's happening is happening in a dream world. So Now, there are people, I think, like Eckhart Tolle, where they don't have a teacher. They just one day something happens and they suddenly realize, my God, I'm not the body, I'm not the thoughts, I'm not the feelings, I am the awareness. And they just get it like that. So, a person could be born quickly into it, but most of the times it's people that have spent years meditating, years doing spiritual practices, and then at some point they get, you know, they understand their true nature. It's very difficult, as I said, because the gurus keep saying, I have it, you don't, come here, do this to get it. You can't do anything to get it. It's simply a seeing.
In Eckhart Tolle's case, by the sounds of it, he was on the verge of suicide before he got his information.
That's right.
So it seems that conflict does put pressure on our focus to expand, which is the paradox of contraction expansion, I suppose. But it does seem that there is some purpose to wars in expanding consciousness. Would that not be the non-duality understanding?
Yeah, it really wouldn't, because from our point of view, if anybody, if I'm teaching non-duality and somebody says, why did this happen? Why? I'll say, because that's how the dream went. So last night I had a dream and I was eating some vegetarian dish. Why weren't you eating a piece of chicken? Why didn't it go this way? What? Because that's how the dream went. So within the dream world, there are apparent rules and regulations. If I take this cell phone, I drop it, gravity is going to make it fall. Okay, so there are rules within the dream world, and you can make generalizations about, like my guru, when I was doing meditation, my guru said, when a war comes, it's because the tension and the stress of the world has built up and it needs to be released, and that may be true. There may be a truth to that, but it won't be the ultimate truth. If you're looking for the ultimate truth, things are the way they are because they are that way. There is no this happens because of this. It appears that way from the limited viewpoint. Non-duality is actually, people think non-duality is some great state of, experience or something. Non-duality is the perspective of what's going on from the highest point of view. Non-duality comes about. You find out that there is this oneness that has always been here. You find that out generally by searching, who am I? What's going on here? So when you find that out, you find out that there's two things. There's not two things. Advaita means not two, but it appears as two. So the world is appearing and then disappearing. Before Sailor Bob got here, there were a few things that really used to really turn my head. One was that every night I would go to bed and I think, what kind of creator makes a world where these things are possible? And there was a tremendous amount of suffering from that. That suffering is gone because I now realize, as bad as it gets, it's still a dream. Okay? The other one was Nostradamus. They said, they wrote that Nostradamus had said that the world would be here and then the world would dissolve. And I thought, that just seemed, I don't know, now it seems like nothing. But back then it was horrific. There would be no existence. Actually, I just read a thing Woody Allen said. He had said, what good is anything? Shakespeare will be gone because the world will be destroyed, right? But the reason that it really doesn't have any effect on me now is because what doesn't get destroyed is the consciousness or the awareness, the oneness that is going on. Like, as we speak right here, right now, it's within the same consciousness that Abraham Lincoln was speaking about, or Napoleon. The same, like every day we're walking around in this oneness. Well, the oneness, the awareness never leaves. So the world is destroyed, and then the world comes back, or it doesn't. Doesn't matter, because it was only a dream anyway.
So then there's no evolution of awareness.
No. Now, a person can gain. First of all, you know, non-duality is the when you finally understand who you are and who you're not, there comes a conviction about that, so that it becomes more and more obvious, more and more clear. The conviction is there that you can kill my body, but you can't kill me. You can kill my thoughts, you can kill my feelings, you can kill my body, but you can't kill me because I am the awareness. That conviction, that is what non-duality is. It's not an experience. People are looking for bliss. They're looking for an experience. It's not an experience. However, when you get that understanding and you walk around in the daytime, not that you're thinking about it all the time, you're not. I'm thinking about this interview. I'm thinking about the reading I'm doing, the astrology. You're not thinking about it, but it's there. At any moment that you want to become aware, like you start to suffer, you go, wait a minute, I'm suffering here. Who am I? And then you can see, you have access to that, to being able to know who you are. So the non-duality is that conviction. Now, when that conviction is there, there is less suffering. Less suffering. There may also be more spiritual experiences. There may be more experiences of feeling limitless and things like that. They come to some extent as a result of the awareness that you have. But you cannot go further. You can have further experiences. A person can, maybe they say, the person can levitate. Oh, your guru can levitate? Mine can levitate and walk through walls. Well, mine can see the future. Well, mine can do this. There's always going to be different powers or different miracles, perhaps. Maybe they're total magic and not true at all. But whatever it is, whenever you talk about someone being better than another, someone getting further, someone getting evolution, that's not really legitimate, because it's not legitimate because you like I say, a Buddha is no different from an ordinary person. He simply knows his true nature. So once I know that I'm not the body, the mind, the feelings, and I am the awareness that has been with me since I've been born and will be here afterwards. Once you know that, how can there be any lengthening, broadening, getting bigger? There cannot. There can be bigger experiences, but the experiences, even after the gurus are telling you to look for this experience and look for that, the experiences are crap. They're nonsense. They're useless. Before Sailor Bob came to visit me, I had been into non-duality for 3 or 4 years, and my favorite book was Nisargadatta's book, Nisargadatta Maharaj book, I Am That. Okay? And that book is a wonderful book, and he would say certain things in the book. And one of the things he would say is, be with the I am all the time. Be with the I am. So, but by be with the I am, he doesn't mean be saying I am. He just means be with the aliveness, the awareness that is there. Just be with it all the time. So I took that to heart. The other thing I took to heart when I was seeking was every book I had ever read by anybody who said they got enlightened. They said, once I got enlightened, I realized I had always been enlightened. Okay? So I would get in bed at night, and I would be with the I am. I would be with the aliveness and the awareness. But I would also, I'd say, okay, I'm enlightened, so let me see, where's this? I'm enlightened, because they were all enlightened before they got enlightened. So, and I would look to see what's here. What's so great? What is here that I, right? And I would do that every night when I would go to bed. I don't know, randomly, after two months or so, and then maybe 3 months later, then maybe a week later, I would have these experiences in the middle of the night. Once in a while, maybe 2 months, a week later, a month later, whatever. This went on for about a year. Every so often, middle of the night, all heaven would break loose. By that I mean that I would be asleep, normal, you're out to the world, and then all of a sudden, pure awareness, limitlessness, infinity. And then it was over. I couldn't tell you if the awareness was 2 seconds or an hour. I couldn't tell you because it was just pure awareness. It was pure. And I thought, oh man, I had it. If only I could have kept it. Because that's what the gurus, oh, you're going to be in bliss 24/7. Oh, you're going to... I told this to Sailor Bob before he got there. He said, yeah, that's not what you're looking for. I said, no, that's an experience. You're not going to have that when you're sick and throwing up in the toilet bowl. You're not going to have that. Your system's going to be too jazzed up with its illness to be having that experience. And, okay, so he said that. Then he was here for 5 weeks, and one of the nights that he was here, it happened. And I was thrilled. And I ran to the cottage. We have a cottage in the backyard. I ran to the cottage at 7 in the morning. Bob, it happened in the middle of the night. He said, James, that's not what you're looking for. That's an experience. You're looking for your true nature, to have the understanding, to have the conviction that that's who you are. That's all you can do. When people think that the gurus are perfect, yeah, they're really perfect until you take away their money, until you take away until you throw a scandal at them, until they create it. You do the right thing and you're going to see their reference point. I tell this to everybody that thinks that gurus are perfect. I say, go to your guru and say, look, I'm a killer. I like to kill people. I got to kill somebody. I'm going to get a dirty bomb. I'm going to drop it in a city. Now I can drop it in your city and your daughter will die, or I could drop it in the other city. The guru's going to tell you, go drop it in the other city. That means he's just like us. And if he doesn't say that, here's the thing. See, this is what I wish I had analyzed when I was 20, when I started the spiritual path. If he doesn't say that, he says, yeah, kill my daughter, go ahead. Then I would say, really? You can keep your enlightenment. In other words, if the guru is perfect, he's either a zombie, and you don't want to be that, or he's got a reference point like us, in which case we're all the same.
So at 20 is when you started to seek? That's when some spark in you thought there was something?
I started transcendental meditation at 19 or 20. And then when I graduated college, I went and I became a teacher. And I stayed in that movement for about 7 years. I kept meditating, but I left the movement in about 1979. And I did every damn thing you could do. I did every damn, spiritual technique you could do practically. And by the age of, 50, I would go to bed at night, practically in tears looking for this enlightenment. There's the old saying that, well, in Nisargadatta's book, he's constantly saying, you must be earnest. You must want this really badly. There is the story of, the guy says he wants enlightenment, so the guru says, oh, you want enlightenment? I want it badly. Oh, you want it badly. He takes the disciple, holds his head under the water till the guy can't breathe, lets him up and says, when you want it that badly, that's when you're ripe. And I was at that right point, around the age of 50 or so. It's like I was no longer looking for bliss. I was just looking for an end to the massive suffering that was there. And it was really interesting because to finish that story, I had massive suffering, even though I got, with all the meditation and spiritual stuff, I got better and better and better. But it was like peeling an onion that would never end. You could get better and better and better and still suffer without putting a dent in the suffering. Okay? Sailor Bob said to me, he said, James, that's not what you're looking for. Forget about that. And you want to know something? I don't have those. I don't look for those experiences. I don't have them anymore. Up until the point where he was here, I suffered like crazy. After he left, the suffering had gone. Not that I don't suffer like anybody else, but the big suffering, what's going to happen when I die, why is the world so, all of that, it just doesn't happen. So when I was looking for the experiences and having the experiences, there was plenty of suffering. When I stopped looking for those experiences, because now I understood what I'm looking for is just to know who I am, the suffering ceased.
And have you not then changed since that moment? Do you acquire more understanding?
No, you may have insights, but look, the difference between, there is no essential difference between anybody. And that's also, I think back to myself when I was 20, I think, how stupid was I? Why did I think that somebody was better than me? Why did I think that this guy is better than that guy? Essentially. Of course, one guy may be cheating people and doing terrible things. The other may be a saint helping people. But essentially, they're just people with a reference point. They're people, and they're people that have a viewpoint of the world, that the world is real, and that I am my body, and if you hurt my body, I'm going to go crazy. Then there's the people that have come to the realization that's not who I am. So there's no essential difference. There's just there's a difference in the understanding of who am I. Once that, it's like this. Do you say to a child, you remember when you believed in Santa Claus? Yes. And then you were told that Santa Claus didn't exist, right? Right. Have you believed in Santa Claus since then? No. Have you gained in understanding that there's no more Santa Claus? No. Once I learned there's no Santa Claus, there's no Santa Claus. So in other words, yes, I can have experiences that are different. And yes, I do. They're not huge, but, there is a difference. Like I wrote a book, Living Reality, right after Bob left. That book would not be the same if I wrote it now. 10 years have gone by. But essentially, I'm the same. Essentially.
So you being an astrologer, you would say that there is a grand design, would you not?
There's a dream.
But there's a design to it.
No, there's a dream. There's a dream. I don't know. I mean, you want to call it a grand design? You can label it a grand design, but it's just a dream.
Well, it can be deciphered, is what I'm getting at. That's what you do for a living, right? That's what you do as an astrologer. You decipher the design.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you try to find the cause of anything, you will get nowhere. If I say, why is my son the way he is, very controlled and kind of shy? Why is he like that? Oh, he had a father that was also like that, right? It gives you a good point of why he's like that. Why does he have the same characteristics as me in a lot of ways? Because he has my genetics. Why do I have those genetics? Oh, I have those because my parents had them. Why do they have them? Well, because my father was in the war, or my father did. So in other words, when you go to find a cause within the creation, everything ultimately has to go back to the moment that the creation occurred. From the time the creation occurred, it was now set that, my son would be this way or whatever. But so if you try to find causes in the fake world, in the Maya world, you'll find causes. But there's a bigger view. When you look for the causes, you are looking for those causes from the point of view that I am a person. I have a body, I have thoughts, and this is a cup, and this is a jar, right? From the world of causes. But if you analyze it further, this is not a cup, this is a bunch of atoms and molecules that appear to be solid. They're not even solid. They just appear to be solid. So if you take the view of the cosmic purpose and all these grand designs, you're taking them from a false viewpoint. You're taking them from the viewpoint that this thing is even here. This isn't even here. It's only appearing to be here.
But what if you take out all of those biases, such as good and bad, or cause, or effect, or why, and you see what's in front of you without all those biased reference points? I don't come from a non-duality point, although I've read some of it, and some of it it seems to make it resonates with my understanding of what I see. But I don't use whys and I don't use cause. I look without as much bias as I can, and I just see, and then I decipher. But I don't decipher from the point of view of poor me or why why is it like this. So there is another middle. There is a little
from the broad viewpoint, from the broadest point of view. You're not here, you don't exist, there's a dream. From the broad, because look, this world is here, and then the world is gone. Okay? You accept that?
Sure.
Okay. If you look to define the word real, what is real?
Right. Yes.
What is real has to have its own independent nature. It cannot be dependent on something else. It has to be lasting. The only thing lasting is awareness and consciousness. So when you ask the questions about something within this fake world, they can't be answered. You can answer them any way you want within the fake world, and you can come up with all kinds of reasons. Those reasons go to hell the moment that the creation is destroyed. And then you realize that, oh, there never was really a creation. It was something that came along like a puff of smoke, and then it's gone.
So then, for
These
you,
things,
because this is a
huh?
question I ask all the different perspectives that I talk to,
Yeah.
is what makes up what aspects, elements make up a human being. So for you, there's only one thing: presence, consciousness.
You're asking about a human being.
Yes.
You could just as well ask about this cup cap.
Any sentient awareness, I'll ask then.
Any what?
Sentient awareness.
As I understand it, all there is one. And then there's an appearance of two. There's an appearance of 2, 3, 4, 7. And the appearance is all of this. It's the James, it's the that, it's the, that's, I mean, all that I really and truly am is awareness and consciousness. The rest of it is a movie. So you're asking a movie character, James, to answer, tell me about this movie, but let's make the movie real. It's not real.
And what if that movie character?
I experience it as real, just like you. But I know better. So this is and this is where earnestness comes in. The seekers say they're earnest, but so often they're not. You say, look at the water in the ocean. What color is it? It's blue. Is it really blue? No, we know it's not blue. It just looks blue, right?
Right.
The water looks blue. Soon as you take the water out of the ocean, it doesn't have the sky, reflecting on it. The water is clear, but the water looks blue. So I experience the world the same as you. I experience pain and pleasure and analysis and what do I think is going to happen in the world. I have all of that too. But then I also have, wait a minute, who really am I? If I go looking, I find that this body's not real. The thoughts are not real. The emotions are not real. They come and they go. There's something else that's here. That's awareness. That's my true nature. So I live in the world. I do astrology. People thought that I was going to quit astrology, or actually, say it different. I quit astrology after Bob was here. I was so burned out I was writing books and doing charts, and it was too much. I did it for 10, 15 years, and I needed a break. I mean, but I couldn't figure out how I was going to make a living. And I thought about it for years. How will I make a living if I want to do something else? Couldn't figure it. Bob came here. I got this understanding, and I said, holy moly, this thing's not even real. It's a dream, And I said, you know what? I'm just going to stop. And I took the phone. I said, hi, this is James Braha. I'm no longer doing horoscope readings. Click. My friend called up. He said, oh, great. You've been wanting to quit. What are you going to do now? I don't know. And for 5 years, the next 5 or 6 years, I made my living investing in gold and silver. I forget what brought us to this, but
I think
people thought that I had quit astrology because now I knew non-duality and the world wasn't real. No, if my toilet overflows, I don't say that crap that stinks. It's not real, so we don't have to call a plumber. No, you call a plumber. So if a person wants to know what's going to come in their future, I look at the horoscope and I tell them what's coming in the future within the dream world. As much as I can. It's not 100%, but
Well, some of the perspectives I've spoken with see the same things you do, but their approach to it is that it's all a dream, yes, but that there's no importance given to whether it's real or not, because you are the spark that's walking through this, that's living this experience, whatever it is, and that is the thing that you walk with. So
you will find that most people that tell you that they've come to understand their true nature will have a certain detachment.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say all of that stuff, and I'm with you. I get excited. I went to my son's music performance. I was thrilled, and I mean, I live life just like you, but I don't take it too far. I just can't take it too far. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't see me thrilled, doesn't mean you won't see me angry, but at the end of the day, when I'm in bed, nothing will have tremendous meaning. Let me say it another way. They used to say that, first of all, when it came to reincarnation, my guru, Sailor Bob Adamson, is such a purist that everything is pure. You can't get around anything. It'll cut the legs out from under you. What about reincarnation? Who's going to reincarnate? What about this and that? So one day I got him. I said, well, wait. Is it possible that within the dream there is reincarnation? He said, within the dream anything is possible. But
so what is going too far then? When you meant what you said earlier, you don't go too far. What do you mean by what's going too far?
Going too far is you get in bed and you start going crazy about what happened today.
Oh, I see.
What happened in the world? What happened here, there? It's because, in other words, when I'm in it, when I'm living my life, I'm not thinking non-duality. I'm not thinking, who am I? I'm living my life. Something bad happens, I go, oh, God, my slacks went down. Oh, this great thing happened. But then at the end of the day, I get in bed, I go, wait a minute. Oh, I'm the awareness. So if I'm the awareness, and the thoughts are a movie, and the feelings are a movie, and the body is a movie, how far can I take going crazy? Or, you know what I mean? So that's what I mean. So a lot of, and you know the Enneagram?
Yes.
In the Enneagram, I'm a 4. I'm as passionate as can be. But I will tell you that there's a detachment now that wasn't there before. Now, they used to say that if you read spiritual stuff, it says that, when you die, your whole life passes before you in an instant. And when you die, the Indians say that you review your life, and then whatever desire comes up. Oh gosh, one day I was working with flowers when I was 12. God, I want to do that. The desire comes up. You get reborn. You get reborn from that desire. Okay? So I tell you that everything up until Sailor Bob was here, there was a lot of suffering. There was no freedom. For all the damn work I did, there was no real freedom. And then from that point, after I understood my nature, then there was freedom. So when I think if I died right now, would I think, oh gosh, I wish that I could be the greatest astrologer? No, because there are still desires, but they're not the kind of desires that you get so attached to because there's no reality here. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't get reborn. Nisargadatta said, he said, no matter what your state of thinking and is, he said, you could have latent desires that are in there. Who knows? But this I can tell you. Before 53 years old, I'd have been born 150. I'd have been reborn for 157 different reasons. You know what I mean? Like, there was still a desire for this, and there was still a desire for a big desire for that, and for that, and for that, and for that. And now, if there's desire there that's big, it's latent. It's latent. It's not as, like that.
So then for Advaita practitioners, the gurus, is their mission to not be reborn? Is there they have no desires? There is no mission, because there is no James to be reborn. Okay.
So they would say there is no Sailor Bob to be reborn. There is no. All there is this oneness. There's no mission. In fact, before I got non-duality, look, I've written 6 books, 5 astrology books, 1, and I can't keep my mouth shut. Okay. If somebody asks, I'm going to start talking. If somebody had told me that I would get non-duality, that I would get contentment, satisfaction at the age of 53 from a spiritual discipline, if they had told me, and you won't give a damn about telling it to anybody else, I would have cut their head off thinking they were crazy. I have a website for non-duality. Do you know why I have that? It wasn't my desire. it was Sailor Bob's, and I wanted to honor Sailor Bob. I did that. I even taught a little bit. I didn't find teaching to be, it, it didn't make me happy, didn't thrill me. There were all kinds of things that my personality didn't like. I did not like that people would sit in the room looking at me like I was different from them. Didn't like that. I didn't like that it's such a simple message. This is my own lack of patience. This is the personality within the James fake world. My personality is I don't have a lot of patience. I say this because I was studying non-duality for 3-4 years before he got here. He was here for 5 weeks. I was still asking him questions the last day he was here. Bob, what do I say if a person asks me this? He says, James, you're going into the future. There is no future. I mean, right? Then I finally, what happened was about a week or two after he left was when I realized I had understood. And it happened in the middle of the night. I got up to go to the bathroom. And here's how I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night up until 53. I'd get up. What's going to happen to my son when I die? Will there be enough money for this? What's going to happen to my bills? That's how I go to the bathroom, right?
Wow.
About a week or two after he died, after James died, about a week or two after Bob left, I got up in the middle of the night and I went to the bathroom. And suddenly I said, I'm just going to the bathroom. Where's all that other stuff? It just wasn't there. All that future and this and that,
Well, you definitely sound like you found the antidote to that mindset.
I found the antidote to that, yeah. But if somebody had told me that, so I put up I did teach for a while, and I still teach. If people call me up, I still talk to them. I'm always willing to talk to them. But the idea that I was going to save someone or this or that. First of all, when you help somebody to see their true nature, you've basically ended the game of life. In other words, this is very conceptual, but as best as we can understand with our limited minds, the infinite was here, enjoying itself. It was just one, and somehow all the different spiritual philosophies they'll all say it in a different way. The Hebrew will say the Ein Sof, which is the absolute, had some sort of impulse to enjoy itself, made contractions, and then the world came about, right? Mm-hmm. So when the absolute decides to make this fake world to enjoy itself, it obviously creates a world where you can't win because it's a fake world. You can't win in that world. The best you can do is to remember your true nature. But there's some kind of, this is theoretical, it's not real, because in reality there's no fake world. But within our world we can say that the absolute had a desire to enjoy itself, and this is it. This is us enjoying ourselves. When you get a person to understand that their body, mind, and thoughts and feelings, they're not real, they're not them, the game is over. A significant part of the game is over. Now, I enjoy things more, paradoxically, I can be in the present to enjoy something more than before when everything was future-oriented and all that. But basically, the game is over. So somebody says, go out and teach those people. Why should I ruin their game? They're having fun winning and losing. They win, they lose, they win, they lose. They get non-duality, game over. It's very nice, but I would only do it if they're interested in it, and I will help them.
So when you say I, you are.
I'm speaking within the fake world. There is no James.
Right. So
I will tell person. There's no James talking to you here. There is a movie character. There's a dream figure named James. He's 53. He's this and that. But it's like analyzing the cup. The cup looks real, but the scientists say no, it's not solid. It's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to. So when you look at it from the bigger perspective, there is no James. And
when who looks at the bigger? That's what's interesting, because the projection is the one that's
the
looking
dream
at the projector.
figure. The dream figure, James, wakes up to find out it's a dream.
Right. Isn't that amazing? That a
It,
fictional figure wakes up. Even the concept of that's multidimensional, is it not?
I will say, I will give you this: the dream is amazing. It is. I mean, it is amazing, and you know it. And if you ask, well, would you rather the dream had never been born? I have a friend. I have a friend who had troubles in his marriage because one of them wanted to have kids and the other didn't, and they went to a therapist, and the therapist said to the one that didn't, they said, well, would you prefer that you hadn't been born? And they said, oh, I'm glad I was born. So it kind of solved that problem. So yeah, I mean it's amazing. But I'm only speaking from I don't mean to give you a hard time.
No, no, no.
Non
I appreciate your passion and your exuberance. Honestly,
Yeah.
this is the best
When
conversations.
when Sailor when Sailor Bob went to see Nisargadatta, his guru, they would sit and they would argue. They'd argue back and forth. And he said, Nisargadatta, anything I would ask, he'd cut the legs out from under me, because in order to help a person to see their true nature, you've got to get them to let go of the idea that there's a person there. The idea that there's a person there is the same as saying that water in the ocean is blue. I know it. It's not blue, but you have to analyze it. And you have to analyze it, and you have to be earnest. And that's the hardest part I have with disciples and seekers, because I'll ask them, is the water in the ocean blue? No. Does it look blue? Yes, it looks blue, but it's not blue, right? They get that. And that's you're willing to stake your life on it that the water's not blue. Yes, I'm willing to stake my life on it. Then you say, are the thoughts you're having, is that your true nature? They go, no. Are the feelings you're having, is that your true nature? Those are your feelings and thoughts cannot be cut by the sword? Yes, they can. They can be destroyed. As soon as your body dies, the thoughts and feelings are gone, right? So they'll admit, I'm not the thoughts, I'm not the feelings, I'm not the body. What are you? You must be this other thing that's there with you now, that's always been here. They get that, and then they argue it. So it's like they get that the water's blue, and they're willing to say the water is not blue. I get that, and I'm even willing to accept that the scientists say that the earth is moving, spinning 1,000 miles a minute, but we're not feeling it, and this is not solid. They're willing to say that. But when you help them to analyze, to see, there cannot possibly be a being based upon thoughts, feelings, and physicalness, because that goes away. So that's not their true nature. But then they will argue it, and they will argue it, for different reasons. But the earnestness, you're basically killing James. You're killing the person. That's why I say I got non-duality. When James died, 10 days after he left, that's when James died. Before that, I was dying every damn day, pain, and right. Now you die once.
But you've maintained James filters, though.
What?
James filters are still there.
The appearance of James filters, the appearance of a James existence is still here.
Right.
And it's going to be here till the body dies. It's going to be here.
Right. So does the guru try to have those filters reflect the true self, as you would call it, or do they let them all play with their own little individual and just dismiss what they're doing? Do you know what I mean by that?
I'm not sure, but there is no. I'll let you ask it again, but because I stopped halfway through. Who am I going to ask this to? Bob, are you? Bob, are you? He will stop me as soon as I say, Bob, are you?
No, you ask your true self.
The true self there's no answering back and forth to the true self. There's simply this awareness or consciousness that is there. It's not talking to me. I'm not getting messages from it.
Right, but your struggle, it sounds like, or your journey in your life has been that being filtered through James. James's trauma and self doubts and whatever.
That's all within a dream. Because understand. Let me make sure you understand something. I have been here eternally. I was never born. I was never created. I'm never dying. Okay? So when you ask these questions, you're asking the this this James character. Okay, so there is a James character, but I don't consider myself the James character. I actually consider myself awareness, that oneness that is here right now, because when this body dies, the oneness and the awareness is still going to be here. It was here, always, it was never created, it simply is. This dream James came along, and the dream James, the way this dream went in 2004, this dream James came to realize that it was actually the awareness and not the body, mind, blah blah blah. But so,
And yet you still live together, all in one being. Yes.
there's no choice. There's no choice.
So you have to get along. Is that right?
You know, you're making me laugh because a couple of nights ago I got this book, The Righteous Mind, and he talks about the Rodney King episode where the riots, and and he said, please, can we all get along?
Right.
Can we all get along? And then, but he says in the book, he says, what they don't quote is later on, he said, look, we can all get along. We can all get along. We're here for a small point in time. Let's get along. So as long as the dream is here, I do my best.
Well, it seemed like you had to go through hell to get to heaven, or
Wait.
It seemed that you had to.
Sorry,
go...
you.
Did I freeze?
Go ahead. Say it again.
It seemed that you had to go through hell to get to heaven.
Yeah, but it wasn't any more hell, I think, than anybody else.
No, that seemed to be the lot here, right? It seemed.
I definitely went through hell, no question about it. Yeah, and you want to know the biggest relief? You know what the biggest relief is? The monkey on the back that says, I got to get enlightened, I got to get enlightened, I want enlightenment, I got to get freedom, I want to get freedom. I had reached the point where I no longer cared about the experiences and the miracles and the bliss. I just wanted an end to the suffering. And, when you're ripe for that, the funny thing is, you have to be ripe, because what you get is not what you think you're going to get. What I thought I would get, if I ever got anything, I would spread to the whole world. I don't have to tell anybody. These people, they're fine. They're fine as they are. They're fine if they suffer. They're fine if they don't suffer. It's a dream world. Now, if I'm around them, I always try to help. You know what I mean? But I don't go out, because you have to understand that, like Buddha said, the Four Noble Truths, the first truth is that life is suffering. When the Absolute created the material existence, it was creating something that by its own nature could not be real, could not ever, it would always have tremendous drawbacks to it. There would be a beginning to everything, and there would be an end to everything. And in order to have some enjoyment, you had to know the difference between suffering and enjoyment. That one really used to get me. People used to say, well, in order to enjoy enlightenment, you have to have the suffering to know how good it is. And I thought, oh, get out of here with that. But it is set up that way. I mean, the dream comes along, and the dream is a fake thing. And because it's fake, it's always going to have these, limitations and ups and downs. And that's the fun of it.
And that's the power of it. Fake or real, there's power to it. It gave it put the power of awareness into you. Of self-awareness, did it not?
Well, I'm going to answer this.
Okay,
I'm going to answer this.
Let me just say one more thing, because as you've mentioned, there are people that will go through seeking their whole lives without coming to the understanding that you seem to have come to.
Right.
The antidote to the seeker. I mean, if there are archetypes, obviously you were the seeker, and you found the antidote to the seeker archetype,
right?
Which is to just dismiss it altogether, and everything that goes with it, which is concern.
Wait. I just want to stop there for one reason.
Sure.
The antidote wasn't because I could dismiss everything. The antidote was that I could find who I am. The dismissing is a byproduct. Okay? here's the reason I'm saying this. People, I see plenty of people running around. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. And yet they don't get non-duality because they don't really. It falls apart. You know, those people who say, "Oh, I get it. It's not real." It falls apart for them. They have troubles later on. They don't. It doesn't end their suffering. It's the seeing. It's the seeing of, oh, so this is what I am, and then the other comes.
Right. It's the embodiment of it, as opposed to the philosophy of it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we kind of keep going around to the same.
It goes in circles. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which is what talk is. You know, I mean, that's the you know, I wouldn't say the struggle I have with this project. I mean, we're talking, right? And you're right. I
yeah,
mean, you know, there's a certain level of that you just can't reach with somebody through talk. But we get to share concepts with each other.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And whoever
yeah,
is listening.
yeah, yeah. But it's you
So
know, it's so yeah.
so what's
Go
the
ahead.
role of paradox in your understanding? Because paradox is something that comes up a lot. It seems the more you delve into things. And paradox is kind of like a higher octave of duality. I would suggest. Um, do you have a sense of paradox of what that if that has meaning for you?
I don't know. Not so much anymore. I mean, I was just writing a foreword for an astrology book, and I was talking about paradox. So within the fake world, you know, paradox is pretty strong in certain ways. Like I was talking about doing people's horoscopes, and there's just certain paradoxes there. One of them is twins. You do the horoscope of twins, and the chart, you know, they may be born 20 seconds later, and their lives are quite different in certain ways. It's a paradox. Um, People have different systems that they use, and they may both work, and they may be completely different. I mean, I see paradox there, but I just consider those to be within the fake world. There's plenty of paradox within the fake world.
Right. So I guess it's the awareness that is planted here, trying to understand it all. That's what creates paradox. But is then you don't see yourself as a dimensional being, and by dimensional, I mean it's a funny word. By dimensional, I mean that you've seen the layers of yourself. You right?
Uh, the thing is,
Okay, we're going to go into what yourself is again, right?
we're talking about non-duality. I have to say to you,
Yeah.
I don't see any being here. I see a fake being. And so if you ask me questions about a fake being, I don't want to answer them because
Right.
they promote something that I don't want to promote. I'm going to tell you something. People were raving about certain spiritual books, you know, and this was after non-duality. I picked it up. Within the first 5 pages, they were talking about how to make the world better.
Hmm.
I walked away. I dropped the book. I just dropped the book.
Right.
In non-duality, a mind that sees good and bad is a diseased mind. Now, within the world, I mean, why am I doing this interview? Because I want to help people. That's paradox.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But I can't go too far with that. I cannot go too far with fixing the world. I mean, the last thing I want to do is to start talking about, you know, like, this is part of why I don't teach. I gave this really brilliant lecture one day for a group of students, and these people had been studying non-duality for under some other guy for a year or two. It was a brilliant talk, if I say so myself. And after it was over, I said, how do we make ourselves better? And I said, God, what is this? You can't make yourself, first of all, there's nobody to get better. There's nobody here to get better. It's a dream. And the more that you're trying to get better, the harder it is. You know.
Well, I agree with you that fixing the world is in the realm of the seeker.
Right.
It's in the realm
Right.
of
It's
projecting everything out.
It's in the world of the dream. You know, it really amazed me that I could spend 30 years doing self-improvement stuff. And I'll tell you, my childhood was horrific. And the first 20 or 30 years of my life, I mean, I started meditating at 20. By 30, I was halfway normal. But I mean, those first 20 years, they were, uh, they were just horrific. But um, I lost my train of thought. It was,
This changing the world, seekers.
yeah, there was, it amazed me it amazed me that you could work on yourself for 30 years and not alter the essential suffering. In other words, I became less nervous, I became more composed, I became happier, blah, 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 blah. And still, in my late 40s, early 50s, I was practically in tears every night looking for an end to this, to trying to fill this void. The void is given to you as soon as they tell you your name is James. There's now a separation. Mm-hmm. I'm James. There's a separation. That void, no matter how much I worked on myself, I did meditating, I did diets, I did breathing, I did yoga, a million different things, got better and better and better, smoother and smoother and smoother. The essential suffering didn't budge. Didn't budge. Then you find your true nature, and suddenly, poof, the whole thing is gone. It's a miraculous thing, but startling.
Well, the whole thing meaning suffering.
Pardon me?
The whole thing meaning suffering. Is that what
was
you're...
the first?
The whole thing is gone, meaning you're suffering.
The suffering is gone. The essential void. In other words, when they tell you your name, you are James, and that's somebody else. There is now a void. Something is missing. I want to reconnect with. I got to now I'm separate, and there's a void. And as long as that void is there, and there's two-ness and three-ness and five-ness, there is suffering. Right. Then suddenly you go, oh my God, I've been like a fish in water. I've been sitting in consciousness the whole time. And I thought to myself, I used to go to meditation courses and meditate 5 and 6 hours a day, looking, meditating. They said you go deeper and deeper and deeper until you find the absolute. This is total nonsense to me now. I'm trying to go deeper to find awareness. Awareness is right here, right now. It's like a fish in water. But I didn't know that. Then when so there's just this sudden split where and again, I suffer like anybody else. I don't suffer like anybody else in terms of that separation. That's the big one. I had this friend when I was about 47 or 48, and he had cancer. And I said, you could fight this. You could do this, and you could do this. He said, James, he was young. I think he was 53 or 50. He said, James, I haven't had one peaceful day on the earth. I got off the phone and said, God, whew, how could he? I haven't either. I didn't, when he first said, I thought, God, this poor schlump. He never had. Now, what I had was I had some very nice experiences. I wrote a book. I was thrilled. I did this. I was thrilled. Right? But a day of peace, not until Sailor Bob left. Not while he was here. After he left. After he left and things settled down, and I realized, oh, I know who I am now. Then there was peace.
Yeah, peace. For myself, one of my most startling memories is I passed out once in the shower. Just for whatever reason, I just fainted. I'd never had done it before. When I woke up, I was giddy because I'd never been that relaxed in my life, and I never even knew it. My body was just totally relaxed, and I'd never ever felt that. And I just woke up giddy, giggling. And I'd never felt such an experience. Yep. I mean, what you're talking about.
That's kind of like in the middle of the night when I would have this blissful infinite feeling, but I would be frustrated afterwards because I said, I want to have that all the time.
You want more? That's right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, your non-duality just wipes out a whole bunch of questions that I was going to ask, so it leaves a little bit of a gap here.
Yeah. Well, the world, going back to the world, because I think that's an interesting, you know, I mean, we live in fascinating times.
Mm-hmm.
We live in fascinating times. But one thing to understand, George Engel, the journalist over in the Middle East, they asked him, they said, how do you know when a country's about to explode? And he said, you know, a country's about to explode when you see protesters against the government, and then you see protesters against the protesters.
Right.
In other words, when the people of the country become so, at each other's throats. And unfortunately, that's what it looks like now. I see articles where liberals call conservatives evil. I see articles where conservatives call liberals evil. I say, how can this be? How can this be? It's
What's interesting to me is that everybody's being shown to be hypocrites that we've always known. The liberals are being shown to be just as arrogant and dismissive and judgmental as the ones they've been calling arrogant, dismissive, and judgmental. And
yeah.
It's all out in the open now that where everybody really is.
That's why I'm reading this book, The Righteous Mind. It came out 5 years ago, and I wanted to read it then. I never got around to it. But he's talking about that, about morals and about that. But the economic stuff is really critical. The next time we have a crisis, the Fed can't solve it. It's going to be a heck of a thing. I follow a guy named Jim Rickards. He talks about some of the economic stuff, and also, I had no idea what you were going to ask me, but I kind of thought you would ask me, what my life is about. So one of the things that my life has been about is gold and silver. Okay, and for some reason, when I was a kid, I was 5 or 6 years old. I had brothers that were coin collectors, and we took $1. My oldest brother took $1 bill. This is in the 50s, and he sent it. The dollar bill said, "Payable to the bearer on demand, $1 in silver." He sent the dollar to the government and said, "We want our dollar of silver." They didn't send a silver dollar because that wasn't a perfect amount of a dollar, but they sent him a packet of silver filings.
Wow.
But and so from that time onward, I've always been a hard money person. And in the Constitution, it says the only form of currency is physical gold and silver, not even gold-backed dollars. No, they said gold and silver because they had seen every single culture, if they have a currency where it's not based on gold and silver, they will eventually spend too much, and it leads to, you talk about causes. You can talk about all the causes you want. If they would, my pet peeve, so to speak, within the dream world is if you simply stuck to the gold and silver standard, you would not have nearly as many wars. You couldn't finance them. I mean, probably 9/10 of the wars would be gone because you couldn't finance them. You finance them by printing money and making promises. And this is what happened to Rome. They had silver coins. We need money. They'd clip the coin till the coin had. They started making it out of zinc or something.
Right.
So we've lost our way. In that way, and that's why, in the last 20 years, I've seen the country really losing its way. I say, okay, so look, Portugal was Spain was an empire, Britain was an empire, had all these empires. They have to come and go. That's astrological. You have 9 planets, and Saturn represents the endings and destruction and things like that. And, as a country's building, they can get very, very powerful. But then when they get bigger and bigger and bigger, then they start to get corrupt. And that's the doing of Saturn. And eventually it turns in on itself and it falls. It doesn't mean we couldn't pick ourselves up and start over again. We could. But my biggest fear is who's going to take over. But people should read about India, what India is doing now with the 500 rupee note, and what this is something that is I think monumental. What India is doing is monumental. Getting hundreds of millions of people that did not have bank accounts getting them to have bank accounts, and getting the dirty money out of the system, it's gonna provide a huge amount of creativity and wealth.
And control, I imagine.
Huh?
And a certain control.
A certain control. Well, yeah. I mean, once they start having money get into the system, they can start educating people. And you start educating 300-400 million people that weren't being educated. I mean, it's huge. I remember there was this book, The Crash of the 90s, by Ravi Batra. And he's a spiritual man. He had a guru, and he was talking about that in America there was usually a depression every 60 years, and he said, we had one in 1930, so the next one was going to be 1990, and he had all this evidence as to why there'd be a depression, and I thought there would be, and there wasn't. And after 3 or 4 years, I said, how could he have gone wrong? Has something happened that we don't know about? And there were two things that I saw that were different. One was credit cards came into use, which got people to start spending more money. And bigger than that was women entered the marketplace. In the 60s and 70s, they entered the marketplace, and that, was a huge boost to the economy. There was not a depression. And I think that them, getting rid of that, getting rid of the dirty money and stuff like that, and getting hundreds of millions of people into the system is going to be massive. I think it's a worldwide change.
Well, it's already an economic, a powerhouse now, isn't it? Even in
it will go. It'll explode in I think in economic gains.
Well,
it'll take 10, 15, 20 years, but at least there'll be someone to take over if America keeps going in this direction.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how it changes their culture. Because I was just talking with Alan Oken the other day. He's another.
Culture's already changed dramatically.
Pardon me?
The culture's already changed dramatically from when I was there to now.
In regards to the caste system, is that evolving?
Caste system? I don't know too much about that, what they've done. What was Alan Oken saying?
Oh, just that where he's in Bali, and he was saying that that the caste system there is changing amongst the young people because the young people feel awkward with treating another person. Even the people who are a higher caste feel awkward with someone who's a friend of theirs treating them differently. So it seems like that seems to be a change, a significant change in Bali, in Indonesia at least.
That's a huge change. I didn't know
imagine in India, he was saying it's even more powerful, the caste system in India. So that maybe this economic and wealth will shift their society in a dramatic way in that regard. It'd be interesting to see.
The problem with China, one of them is these ghost cities. Part of why they're building those about the ghost cities?
They just built from scratch cities?
They build cities and nobody comes to live in them.
Oh.
So it keeps the system going. I mean, you Google ghost cities. Google how much cement is China using. China is using, in 2 years, the amount of, something like 2 or 3 years, the same amount of cement that America used in between 1900 and 2000. They're doing it in 2 years. They are building cities and nobody's living in them. So the people that make the steel and make the cement, they're very wealthy. They go to the politicians and they get and they say, help us to, build a city here, okay it, and blah blah blah. And so there's a corruption going on there, and that's not going to last. I mean, that's a bubble so far beyond what America's bubble was.
Wow.
At least we were living in the houses. They're not even living in these cities.
Well, that's the thing. You talk about this dream world, but it seems the dream world is getting dreamier and realer at the same time. You know what I mean? It seems like there's more illusion and less at the same time. Don't you think?
Our experience of it, our dream world characters are experiencing it. Yeah, but I mean, really, ultimately, like I say, when I get in bed at night, then I go, yeah, well, this is, I can hear Sailor Bob's words. It's, James, sometimes the good guys win and sometimes the bad guys win. It's just a dream. I mean, otherwise, really, you go crazy thinking about cultures that have been destroyed and, I mean, look, if we don't get global warming under control,
Yeah.
the world is gonna. I mean,
Yeah.
and yet it's happening. That global warming could, if we don't do something about it, it could destroy, right? And yet sometimes the good guys win and sometimes the bad guys win. It's how the world goes.
Yeah.
Cultures come and go.
Yeah.
They come and go. It's from our point of view, it's terribly unfortunate. But from the you have to understand it from the point of view that the infinite had nothing to enjoy. So it made this creation, and now it had wars. The good guys won. Ooh, the bad guys won. Ooh, look, they couldn't get it together. They couldn't get it together to stop polluting, so they destroyed the world. From that point of view, I mean, the whole point of making a fake world is to have differences, and when differences, you're going to have winners and losers, and
Well,
there was one non-duality teacher after 9/11. She started talking about. She said it was so horrific. Did you notice how exciting it was?
right.
I mean, it's politically incorrect to say that, but
Sure.
that's so when the gods are. If somebody's up on Mars watching us, have a world war in World War I and World War II. Look at the fireworks. Look how they're killing each other.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the ultimate paradox? That the oneness creates diversification? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yes.
the paradox I was going to mention earlier when I was saying just how non-duality, how that reflects on.
But in the end, it never. There's a 3-volume set called Nothing Ever Happened by Papaji.
Right.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful books. It's not pure non-duality, not by a long shot.
Yeah.
It's all about miracles and stuff. But I remember when Sailor Bob got here, and we were talking. I had a group of people, and we had read all these other books, and we heard this concept, nothing ever happened. And then Bob said, "Yeah, well, nothing ever happened." And we said, "What? Wait, really? Did nothing ever happen?" He said, "Well, think about it. Look at it. It comes and it goes. What is it? It's like a dream,
And
I
even
mean-
that saying, nothing ever happened is a paradox, because nothing
Right.
happened.
There's a song. First there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is. That's Donovan sang that.
Right.
It was first there's this physical world and we believe in it. Then we find out it's Maya. It didn't exist. And then there's the next part where you go, well, it didn't exist, but in a way it does. The dream is
Right.
a dream came, so it's a dream. So
Right.
first there's a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is.
Right. So I think the trick is exactly what you said before: detachment from that kind of detachment, so that
If there is any trick, it's like if somebody was suffering, like when I can't remember if it was on the phone and Bob was over there or he's here. I said, Bob, I had this terrible thing with this lady, this businesswoman. I feel terrible. He says, all right, so have a look. He said, have a look and see who is having the terrible time. To do that, you have to go, okay, let me look and see who is suffering here. I know I'm suffering. My heart doesn't feel good. My stomach doesn't, right?
Yeah.
But I can't locate anything real in there. You know what I mean? There's nothing real except for the oneness or the awareness. So if there's a trick, it's to go back and look and see who am I? Actually, the term, everybody says, who am I? But the real term from Ramana Maharshi was, who is this me?
Mm.
Who is this me?
Right.
That's what non-duality is. It's the search for who am I. And when you search for who am I, then you're coming to the idea. It's not once you say who am I, then it's what the heck's going on here, because if I'm not this thing that I appear to be,
and that's the ultimate duality too, isn't it? That question.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not me making it. See, like I can't say, oh, you should go and do this process because then you say, who should do this process? I can't find a me to do it.
Well, then you've just killed my last question that I ask everybody. I ask, if you're giving a public service message to humanity, what would you say to humanity if you could say something to people?
I would say find your true nature. Because if you could find your true nature, the attachments that cause the suffering and cause the wars, in other words, like, um, I would prefer to see a person. I've seen plenty of people, that were seekers, and finally they would get it and they would wake up to themselves. It's way more powerful than protesting. You can go out and try to do the right thing politically. You can try to protest the bad guys, and that's all well and good. I'm not saying that shouldn't be done, but there's no comparison. It's just that basically is keeping it alive. It's resisting. It's the good resisting the bad. It's the bad resisting the good, and the resistance goes on and on and on. If you and the reason that you're doing the resisting, each person's resisting the bad. The bad guy thinks he's good. He's resisting the bad, and the good guy. So the better thing than getting involved in that is to say, again, I come back to the thing, that damn suffering that is there. It's caused by that void that I'm separate, And so if the dream figure can find the true self, those are the people that will be then, even without going and protesting, even without going into government and changing things, I think it opens up a space for the dream world to get better, which I would like, but I'm not going to expend a lot of effort at it because, seeing good and bad is the product of a diseased mind. And the thing is, it's in our face. You look at the television and you see good and bad, good and bad, good and bad, good and bad. Some people just turn off the television. I have to say that this James personality happens to love politics. This is, so I was asking about the Enneagram. Maybe I said I'm a 4 in the Enneagram, which is, it's the artist. It's as passionate as you can get, right? So, I think to myself, I'm not a good non-duality teacher because I get all involved and passionate, But that's the personality. Personalities are going to be what they are. They're not going to change because of,
So even within your non-duality, you're dual to some degree.
Well, there's a fake thing going on here,
Yeah.
And will be, until the body dies. There will be a reference point.
Do you think that it's possible for there to be a critical mass of awareness that would make the dream less dreamy? And
100%, 100%, sure. I mean, if you listen to if you read Hinduism, they talk about the 4 yugas. This is the dark yuga. Kali Yuga is 132,000 years. I'm not sure that they're Earth years. They could be longer, but according to the scriptures, they say that the Kali Yuga is the age of quarrel, fighting. It's the lowest one. Then there's 3 other yugas. They get better and better and better. In the highest yuga, person lives for 50,000 years, having a body that's practically angelic. A lot of bliss, a lot of happiness, and stuff like that. But even within Kali Yuga, the dark yuga of fighting, there are high points. And there is supposed to be a 10,000 year high point within that, within that time frame. That'd be nice. I sure wish I could have, been there.
Maybe you will.
Maybe.
Well, thank you so much. This has been an awesome talk. I appreciate it very much. I'm glad we made it happen. And
yes.
And it was very enjoyable to talk with you.
Yeah. Well, you've been a great you've been a great interviewer. Sometimes I get fiery and I start to feel like I might lock horns with somebody or something. But this was good.
I appreciate conviction and passion and the openness to contrasting views and
let me tell you something about non-duality that's great. Like, there was this right after Bob left, people from the meditation movement would send me emails and things, and there was this thing where people in the organization that gave millions and millions of dollars were set up to be like great gurus, and people would bow to them. And I mean, this, you can imagine, this was the most horrific thing in the world, right? But I looked at it and I said, wow, you know, in other words, this is the dream. The whole point of the dream is to have every which way.
Right.
And even though it looks totally absurd, I mean, that's about as far away from anything spiritual as you can get, setting people up to be these gods, and then the disciples have to bow to them, like, oh my God. But instead of getting upset about it, I said, wow, look at that. Just as long as I'm not seeing people get, physically hurt. I mean, I see people get physically hurt, and it's, I suffer as much as anybody. Yeah. But something like that, I just feel, wow, that's interesting. And the people that are doing the bowing, they're liking it. Right. They're the slaves, and they're choosing to be the slaves.
Yeah, everybody seems to like their parts. Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Enjoy your afternoon.
You too. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.